let's put out this, I had this type of birth, I had that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the essentially rehab process is exactly the same. Welcome to the Core Connections podcast. Hey, I'm Erica Zeal. I'm a Pilates instructor, fascial and core expert, nutrition coach, and I'm a mom of 3. I'm the creator behind Core Athletica, my core rehab program, my brand new core nutrition program, instructor training courses, and my prenatal NACTA fitness membership. The core focus of my podcast is to help you improve the quality of your life. Today's quote of the day is, "No matter how slow you go, you're still lapping everybody on the couch." Thank you, Elite Daily. So today's podcast is all about postpartum. And this is going to be, I really think everybody should listen to this, whether you're planning to have a baby down the road, you're currently pregnant. This is very important so you can prepare a little bit more and understand where you can go postpartum. And then, of course, if you are postpartum or you have a girlfriend, a sister, a cousin, whoever, share this with her because there's a lot of myths out there when it comes to the postpartum period, right? So I want to help kind of clear things up. And today I'm really just going to go through, I'm going to answer a lot of questions that I've gotten over the years working with pre and postpartum clients and also having, 3 babies myself. So I've been there, done that, learned a thing or two, look back, and definitely there are some things that, would have done a little bit different if it was now versus then. But, hindsight's 2020. So we're moving on. So one of the first things when it comes to postpartum, and I think this is the most important, is just really enjoy the bonding time with baby, right? And even in the chaos of everything, sleep deprivation, pains, whatever might be going on, really, really try to be as present as you can. I know, easier said than done. I'm not in the baby stage right now, but I'm just going to tell you that because that time does go so fast. And every one of you that have been through those initial weeks postpartum, yeah, it's kind of a blur maybe and chaotic, and they grow so quickly. And I know, like I'm sure you've heard it before, but that's the most important thing. I think just really enjoying that bonding time with baby and rest as much as you can. Hard to do again, but just do the best you can. And then there's a lot of other questions that come up, right? So that's great and all, but what about this body of mine that I've been antsy to try to get my body back, or I'm dealing with pelvic floor, or what about this thing I've heard about diastasis, or my back is starting to hurt, or I just want to cry all the time, all of these things, okay? So first off, ask for help. I can't stress that enough. And that's, if you can set that up ahead of time before baby even comes, whether it's a mom, a mother-in-law, your spouse, obviously, a friend, a sister, or say, you know what, during those initial weeks postpartum or first couple months, I'm going to hire myself a housekeeper. I don't know, whatever it is that helps you so that you can really enjoy more of that bonding time with baby. You can rest as best as you can anyway, right? I think as women, sometimes we're like, oh, we can just do it all, no matter what, no matter how tired we are, how many things we've got going on. We're like, we're just going to do it. But you know what? Our bodies go through a lot being pregnant. Birth is a traumatic experience, whether it's absolutely incredible or things didn't go as planned. No matter how you look at it, it's a trauma to the body, and you need to give yourself some grace and some love and care. And this is a big part of it. It's kind of almost it's like setting our ego aside of that mental mindset we have of we're just going to do it all, and really asking for help. There is nothing wrong with that. And that can really help you in your recovery postpartum, right? Okay. Now let's get into some movement stuff. And obviously we want to always hold the whole enjoying bonding time with baby, resting, things like that. But I do believe that movement is very important. I'm not calling it exercise, so don't flip my words on me here. It's about moving just a little. And let me clarify that again. The movement you're doing is very minimal, right? Because when we think about, if you heard me talk about fascia and all that, right? When we don't move, stuff starts to get stuck. Our fascia starts to get stiff. And that's where sometimes the aches and pains can start to creep in because our body's tired and all of a sudden now there is no longer a baby in our belly. So now our core is, and our belly is really stretched and our core is weak, and that tension that we held in our low back maybe while we were pregnant, now all of a sudden postpartum, those muscles start to grab and they get tighter, and then you start to experience more back pain, but you really don't have to. You really don't have to. So a couple tips that I'm going to share with you to help with some of these things that can creep up on us postpartum. And in all honesty, ladies, I just feel like it's not talked about. And it's this whole old notion of, waiting to have doctor's approval to exercise. Absolutely. Don't be going and running or hitting the gym or doing workouts. Even if you think you're ready, you're not ready. Just let me put that out there. So we're not talking about exercise yet. This is these 6 to 10, 12 weeks, until your doctor is like, okay, now you can start to exercise. And at the end, I am going to give you some tips on how we transition, because we don't just hit the ground running, okay? But let's go back. Let's talk about this movement that I'm talking about. So when we think about moving, it's just moving. It's nothing crazy. We're not thinking about burning calories or exercising and getting our heart rate up or working up a sweat. You shouldn't probably be doing really any of that. So what we're going to do is strap your baby to you and focus on standing tall, starting to lightly activate that pelvic floor, zipping upward, and just go for little walks. Maybe the weather's too crappy and it's around your house. Walking a little bit around your house. If you've got a flight of stairs, maybe it's really slowly walking up your stairs. And I'm talking like turtle speed. I remember, this was my first, I remember after she was born and we were home, I don't like hospitals, so I think we only stayed one night. And then we're home and I've got the baby strapped to me and I'm out for a walk that same night and people look at me like I'm crazy. But you know what? When you strap baby to you, again, we're bonding, right? Baby is all snuggled. They love that sensation of just being so close to mom, going for a walk, because that's the movement they felt when they were in your belly, right? So if you can, and the weather's nice enough and you can get outside and you can go for a little walk, even if it's a couple blocks, you get out there and you're walking so slow that you're like, oh my gosh, my body really cannot go any faster than this. That's okay. That is perfectly okay. I'm going to give you complete permission to walk as slow as you've ever walked before in your life, except for maybe when you were a baby, right? So I want you to embrace that, and just a little bit of movement can go a long way. Getting some fresh air. That's so good for you. But don't stress yourself out. And if you got to stop and you got to take a rest, do that. I really want you to turn inward to your body. I mean, always, but especially in this postpartum period. Because when we start to bring awareness into the body during this time period, you might be able to connect with your body on a whole new level than you ever did before. Even if this is your 5th baby, that's okay. I have so many women that have gone through my prenatal membership program and they're on their 4th, 5th, 7th baby, and they're like, this is amazing how much more they learn about their body when they're bringing awareness inward and the effect it can have on their body postpartum. It's absolutely fascinating what we can start to do during pregnancy that obviously not only can help you while you're pregnant, be beneficial for baby as well, potentially help so much with the birth experience and the postpartum recovery. So keeping in mind the stuff that you can do while you are pregnant, and even better, you start this pre-pregnancy. I have women that will reach out to me and be like, Erica, I've never had a baby, but it really sounds like core rehab would be a really good program for me. And I'm like, absolutely. When you can learn even before you get pregnant, how to properly strengthen your deep core, you're that much farther ahead when you do get pregnant. And then your core is stronger. You're learning how to connect and release and stretch and move and have so much more control of your pelvis, pelvic floor, your deep core, and your hips. Okay, so that kind of deals with the whole birth and moving into that. But again, back to what I was talking about with those initial weeks postpartum. And again, this is a vaginal birth. You can start to do some of this as soon as you get home. And with a cesarean, you need to listen to your body, and it may be a couple more days or a week. But again, it doesn't mean you can't move, right? You have to watch with the pressure and lifting and all of that. So listen to what your doctor says. But as soon as you're starting to feel a little bit better, and I'm not talking about, again, we're not talking lifting weights or anything. You should not be doing that, right? Holding baby is enough of that, lifting weights in the beginning. But it's about getting some movement, getting some blood flow, lengthening the fascia, because if we stay all, lack of movement, that fascia is just going to get tighter. And then we do start to move 6 to 12 weeks after postpartum, you've lost a lot of strength. And I want to encourage you to keep at least some of that. Okay, so in those first weeks, you can start doing the pelvic tilts. So simple, ladies. You're not even hardly moving. It's breath work with stimulating your deep core to work. And it's going to feel amazing to lay on your back now that you're postpartum, right? Moving into some simple hip rolls, maybe even some inversion where you prop your hips up a little bit and you just lay there, allowing gravity to kind of think about drawing that uterus back up in the pelvic floor and everything kind of back up the body where it should be and not hanging quite so low. And that can really help with some, pelvic floor prolapsing symptoms, even if it's just very minor. And even if you don't know if you have them, I think it's a good practice to do a little bit of. But again, it's this idea of taking care of the deep core, your pelvic floor, starting to get things just to reactivate. And in the beginning, it is very common that you don't feel any of this. Very common, even if you practiced it during pregnancy. Now, I will tell you, if you practice the how to strengthen your deep core and you really learn a lot about your body, you wake up those fascial connections. And again, you can't do it in 1 month. You can do a little bit in 1 month, but it takes time. So the sooner you can begin, the better, because at a cellular level, it takes time to create this new fascial awareness and connection. And so if you can even start, again, pre-pregnancy, in between babies, this is why I always am telling my mamas when they're like, I'm just going to wait because I'm going to have another baby and then I'm going to work to heal my body postpartum. And I'm like, whoa, stop, please stop. That saying to me is a big myth out there. Oh, I'm just going to have all my babies and then I'm going to fix my body. Okay, it's not even about fixing your body. I don't like that term. I don't like that term at all. But it's more of, it's a healing. The rehab really is a good word. That's really what we're doing because it's a therapeutic process. You can't think that we can go through these 9 months of pregnancy and everything that the body goes through, the hormone changes, the hip shifting, the fascia stretching, the muscle stretching, all of this that's happening, the sleep deprivation, all of this stuff, to think that we're going to birth a baby and we're going to pop back in and start running at 2 weeks postpartum. Don't do that, by the way. I don't care how good you feel. I really don't. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I know I feel like this is postpartum podcast and I keep talking about pregnancy because it's so intertwined. And I want all of you listening that have the opportunity, whether it's now during a pregnancy or a next pregnancy, it really is never too late to learn this. And that's why in this, 6 to 10 weeks postpartum, I can't stress enough how just bringing awareness to your breath, to your posture, how you're carrying baby, strap baby to you, get a little movement, do some pelvic tilts, do some gentle hip rolls, just to start to reactivate. And not then, once we deliver a baby and everything's stretched and opened up, and anytime we're standing, if we're not connecting through our core at least a little bit, or we're not even aware of it, then we can be putting more and more pressure on our pelvic floor. And for those of you that do feel like $1 million at 2 weeks postpartum and you're like, my energy's good, I'm sleeping pretty good, baby's sleeping through the night, which is not most of us, right? That was not me. Although I did feel pretty good after I felt pretty good after all of my babies, about 2 weeks. My third, I felt like $1 million pretty much the day after I delivered her. And that was big eye-opener for me personally when I was like, oh, that's what it's supposed to feel like when you don't tear, when you push out a baby, and your recovery is just day and night. You have way more control over your body than you may have ever realized or have ever been empowered to take control of. But that's what I'm here to tell you, okay? You do. It's not a quick fix. It's not a pill. It's not a, overnight you're going to feel this, and this. It's like, no, when we start to practice and implement better breath work, better posture, better exercises. Oh, wait, I'm not going to say that. Better movements to start to, stimulate and turn on our deep core in ways that we've never have before. It's a life changer. At a cellular level, it takes time to create new connections. You cannot speed that up. The only way to speed that up is to do the movements. Practice carrying your body with better awareness during your day, right? I teach you how to do that because we don't have a lot of time to work out, especially with the newborn. But you're moving throughout your day. You're sitting, you're standing, you're nursing, you're going to the grocery store. You're doing all these things. And I want you to learn how to do them with better awareness and better connections to your body. So we're leading to an upgraded quality of life. So you feel better because nobody should have to suffer with aches and pains. It's even, especially at such young ages when all of this stuff seems to start. And the pelvic floor is such a big one and it's not talked about, but I talk about it and I'm going to keep talking about it. And if you haven't listened to the podcast that I did with Solange Ross, we will put that in the show notes for all of you. And I absolutely put that on your next to listen to. Solange is amazing. She's an advisor for me on my core rehab program, and she's absolutely an incredible physical therapist, specializes in women's health physical therapy. So we have lots of fun topics to talk about when it comes to pelvic floor, but it is so, so important. And I made a note here because I wanted to make sure that I address, even though you might feel really amazing, you still have to go through the same process of, re-strengthening the core. I just feel, because I have women that ask me, they're like, well, but do you have a program for, I had a C-section. Do you have a program for me? And I was like, yes, core rehab. It's the same thing, ladies. So let's put out this, I had this type of birth. I had that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the essentially rehab process is exactly the same. I feel like I kind of keep going off. I know you're like, wow, I have so much I want to talk about with all of this. But again, the process is the same. That is the most important thing. And I got a couple other questions that I have to address in this. I have to address because I know you're going to ask these. And I'm like, wow, so many of these pieces that I talk about today are like their own pieces. But I'm going to continue and I've got my list here. So wrapping postpartum. If you're going to wrap, ladies, wrap soon after you have that little one because that can help to encourage your uterus to shrink back a little bit quicker. But just remember, pay attention to how your pelvic floor is feeling. If you feel like you're wrapping so tightly that you're not able to breathe very well and or you're putting pressure on your pelvic floor, it's too tight. And I know there's different cultures in wrapping. So if you have someone that can show you how to specifically wrap, that's great. Just keep in mind with wrapping, ladies, that as time goes, once you get past that 6-ish weeks postpartum, we want to start wrapping a lot less because I don't want you to use wrapping as a crutch. If we're using wrapping to help support it because we're like, oh, it feels good on our back or it helps pull my tummy in, it can actually make you weaker in the long run. So I do recommend that if you are going to wrap, when you're practicing your pelvic tilts and hip rolls and inversion stuff, take the wrap off and start to feel that you can feel the layers of the core. You're at least trying to, whether you feel them or not, okay? It takes 6 to 10 weeks for your uterus to return back to normal. So yes, at 5 weeks postpartum, if this is your third baby, yeah, you're still going to look pregnant, and that's okay, and that's normal. We have to embrace this journey postpartum and not feel like, oh, we're just going to snap right back. Some women will and some women won't. And it just depends on so many factors. So many factors, okay? But if you can start pre-pregnancy, you can work during your pregnancy and you're getting the fascial tensegrity to connect, that can be so helpful postpartum. One, you're going to feel your connections a lot quicker because they're there. That memory is there, okay? Even with a cesarean birth. And it takes time for our body to come back because keep in mind, right? Your uterus, it started out as about the size of a walnut, goes to about the size of a watermelon. It's got to come back. So be kind to your body. Give yourself some grace. Don't compare yourself to supermodels out there and all that, right? And because everybody's bodies are different. It takes time. Your hips are going to spread. It takes time for them to come back. Your ribs are going to spread. It takes time for them to come back, right? But when you can learn and be empowered with the knowledge of how to do these things, it can make you stronger, more connected, and feel more empowered and be more empowered for the changes of your body. Plus, it just brings so much more awareness to your body. The question of how long is it going to take me to get my body back? And how long, and I even have people ask like with core rehab when they join, okay, how long is this going to take? And I'm like, okay, well, first off, let's flip that switch and let's not address this as like it's a quick fix. We don't want to rush through the program because rushing is not going to get you anywhere, because rushing is going to make you rush. And all you're focused on is how quick can I get through this so that my body can get back. It's not about getting through the program. That's not it. It's about you learning, embracing, applying the pieces to your life. It doesn't matter what you're doing, but anything that's empowering knowledge and awareness, it takes time. You're going to come out the other end of this journey. You're going to feel like a new person, more empowered. It's absolutely just amazing how powerful it is. But there are factors, many factors that can affect how long it's going to take you to get your body back. And I'm just going to go ahead and answer this. I'm not going to give anyone a specific timeline because it could vary from like 9 months to a year to a couple years. Nobody likes to hear that, but in all honesty, it's the truth. Okay, so hormones. Oh, ladies, hormones. Wow, right? It's a bit of a roller coaster ride. So I'm going to just put this out there is, are you supporting your adrenals? Are your adrenals being supported? Because that is a big thing when we start getting sleep deprived. Our cortisol can just be all sorts of out of whack. Either we have too much or we don't have enough. I think it's something very important that we need to be aware of, and we need to bring it up with our doctors about, is there anything that I can do to support my adrenals? Okay. You can ask them about certain supplements. Like, would it be okay if I added this in to my morning regimen to help me? Because if you're, and be aware of your coffee drinking. I love my coffee. I drink it every day. Every single day I drink my coffee in the morning. But be aware of how much coffee you're drinking. Try really hard not to have that afternoon coffee. If you need to drink a little bit, have a little green tea, something that has a little less caffeine. Herbal is better. And with your coffee, ladies, I mean, seriously, Bulletproof is my brand to go to because it doesn't have the toxins that you're going to get at some other brands. It's tested for mold and all that stuff. We don't need to be adding those factors into our body. So watch if you're drinking a ton of coffee just to survive your days, that is a good sign that your adrenals do not have enough support. And we can support them by adding some supplementation, but you need to talk to your doctor about that. If they're addressing your thyroid, okay, but we got to go deeper. We got to go to the adrenals, okay? We've got to be going to the adrenals and, nourishing our body really, really well. Making sure you're getting enough fat, ladies. Your body, especially when you're nursing, you have to be eating a lot of fat. Yes, I know you're going to crave carbs. Fine. You got to have some carbs. Oatmeal's really great for helping your milk supply, but you have to have fat. You have to be eating lots of good, healthy fats. And obviously you need some protein too, so don't forget about the protein. Breastfeeding. Now, I find that it can kind of go either way. Women can hold on to extra fat stores because their body needs it to make the breast milk, right? So don't get so fixated on, oh my gosh, I'm holding on to these last 5, 10, 20 pounds because it may not come off until after you nurse. So just embrace the time. Don't be so fixated on the weight on the scale. Focus more on how your body's feeling. That weight will come off, but the more we think about the weight that you're trying to get rid of, that's an added stress. Ladies, you don't need any extra stress right now. No. When you're so sleep deprived, that can really mess up our stress and our cortisol levels. So let's work to flip that switch and be like, embrace maybe that extra baby weight. I mean, look at what you made. Look at this amazing living little baby. They're so cute. And they take a lot out of our bodies. And they take a lot from us, especially postpartum. Embrace the time. And just, if you can embrace and really kind of flip the switch and be like, you know what? I did. Wow, look at all of this I have done. And embrace that. Focus on the good things day to day. And if it's, okay, I'm going to do some pelvic tilts today and I'm going to go for a little walk around the block. Great. Do that. Focus on eating healthy food. Stop looking at the scale. If you're weighing yourself a lot, stop doing that. Just put that thing away. Better yet, throw it out. Throw it out, ladies. No one needs a scale. Scales are no good. Okay, sleep deprivation, I kind of mentioned that, right? So all of that can play a role in hormones. So take a deep breath, embrace your life right now in this postpartum phase, because there's a lot going on. And let's not be so hard on ourselves and our bodies, because with time, things will shift the way you want. And when you can start to learn a little bit right now about activating the pelvic floor, reconnecting the deep core, standing a little bit taller, focusing on your breath, really just being present, right? And this is one thing I'm talking about. I'm going to add it here. If you find yourself when you're nursing your baby just constantly flipping on your phone and checking social media, like, okay, let yourself do that like a couple times a day and then be done. Just be in the moment of like your thoughts. And maybe your thoughts are like, I just need to cry right now. That's okay. You can do that. That's allowed. We have to allow expression because otherwise, where do they go? They just bottle up inside and then you explode someday. So, when you're breastfeeding, making sure you're hydrated. You have to stay hydrated, ladies. So my go-to that I've always recommended over my years and years of training is every time you sit to nurse, drink 2 cups of water. Just do it. Make yourself do it because it takes a lot of water to create your milk. Plus your body needs water, right? Pelvic organ prolapsing, pelvic floor dysfunction, right? Kind of mentioned that. That is something that regardless of whether you know you have or you don't, the healing process is the same. I always say play it on the cautious side and let's just rehab and think, okay, well, what's the worst thing? Even if you don't, your core is going to be stronger for it. And you can work to preventing it. And of course, I know the question is going to come up of when can I check for diastasis? I don't recommend anyone even check for diastasis until 10 weeks. If you can wait 10 weeks, that'd be great. Again, same thing because of the diastasis, whether you had a vaginal delivery, a cesarean birth, pelvic organ prolapsing, pelvic floor dysfunction, any of it. You just throw it all in one basket. I don't care whether you have it or you don't. Yes, you hear me talk about it by promotions, ads, social media, because it's a way to get people's attention to bring awareness to things, right? And a lot of people may not even realize that there is anything going on, right? So I know I talk about the diastasis a lot because it's something I want people to be aware of. I want you all to understand it, but I also don't want you to go overboard with it either, because the diastasis is just a part of it, right? But the pelvic floor is a part of it. The aches and pains is a part of it. Am I recovering from a vaginal delivery is a part of it. Am I recovering from a cesarean birth? That's a part of it. Are my hormones all out of whack? That's a part of it. Am I sleep deprived? That's a part of it. Like we put all of these things together where we tend to kind of portion them off. It doesn't matter because the process, that journey postpartum, it's the same. It's the same process for everybody. It's just some of you may move through a little bit quicker. Some of you may need a little bit more time. That's the only difference. And of course, how to check, I will add the video. We'll add the video in the blog post with the show notes so that if you're not sure, you can check. You can check as early as 6 weeks. Don't check at 3 weeks. When I get you ladies that email me and like, oh, I checked at 3 weeks and I don't know if I'm doing it right. It's okay. Don't even worry about it right now because just allow the process to begin. Because the recovery process is the same. You're going to start, say you join core rehab. I added a video too for those of you that maybe are in the prenatal membership right now and you're like, oh, I'm going to take a break in those weeks postpartum. You're welcome to do that. But I'm going to tell you, I added a video to teach you some of these simple movements. They're very gentle, so gentle, that you can do in those weeks before your doctor gives you clearance. There's breath work, there's posture, there's so much educational information that you can begin doing that can help you to feel better, a little bit more energized, and give you a little kickstart on this journey instead of having to wait till your doctor says, okay, now you can exercise. And now when the doctor says, okay, now you can start to exercise, that's when you can begin the workout schedule, the actual workouts. But before that, there's so much good stuff that I teach you. And if you're not ready to join the membership, that's fine. And that's why we shifted it over to a membership, because it's attainable I want everybody to have a chance to experience it. Is there anything I can do about the loose skin? Absolutely. And remember, just like our fascia at a cellular level, it takes time to rejuvenate. It takes time. Now, dry brushing is awesome. I love it. When you dry brush your body, and I did a podcast on that, we'll link to that. When you dry brush, connect your core a little bit as best you can, and then dry brush. And then of course, just learning how to strengthen your deep core, because we're going to work from the inside out, and it takes time. That loose skin, those outer layers have to go away as our skin rejuvenates, and our new skin that's going to be more taut against our stronger deep core. There you go. It takes time. Okay. But the sooner you begin, the sooner it's all going to happen. And then, I'm going to finish up here with, do you really have to wait 6 weeks with a vaginal delivery to start exercising? Again, to go in and actually exercise, yes. To start to move, no. No, move, ladies. Move, but listen to your body. One good key is you'll know you're overdoing it if your body's not feeling good. And especially in those first weeks when you're still bleeding, if you go for a walk and you start bleeding either during or right after a lot more, that's a sign you overdid it. So you need to back it off, okay? So while I want to encourage you to move, I also encourage you to take it really slow. You might go for a 5-minute walk one day. And the next day, maybe you go for an 8-minute walk. And a couple days later, maybe you go for a 10-minute walk. You know what I mean? It's slow and gradual. And it's going to vary from person to person. So embrace your experience, and it might look different for you with your next baby. This postpartum experience may be way different than your first postpartum experience, right? So you do need to take your time. It's not ever about rushing, no matter whether you do my core rehab program or you do something else. It doesn't matter. You just have to embrace the journey and take your time. As far as running, I don't recommend running until you've done some core rehabbing because no matter how strong or connected you think your pelvic floor is, well, you know what? It never hurts to take a little bit more time to make sure of it, because I don't like when I hear these stories of women that were said, okay, you can go exercise now, and then she goes and runs too much, too quick, too soon, and her uterus falls out. No. So that's why I want you to embrace the core rehab journey and take your time. And as you start to want to run again, let's work into it, just like we're doing our walking in the beginning. It's slow. Don't just be one day be like, even if you ran all the way up until you delivered your baby, don't just think postpartum after a vaginal delivery you can run at 2 weeks, because you don't know what all really took place, right? How stretched still is all that tissue down there? You've got to allow it time to come back together. You're all in the right spot. So thank you all so much for joining me. Please share this podcast with a girlfriend, a sister, a coworker, a cousin, whoever, because this needs to be talked about more, all of this. There's so many myths out there, right? I know that because I get so many questions all the time about this, and this, I wish this was talked more about from the OB's perspective, but it's not. So please share this with someone else. And again, thank you so much for listening. If you're ready to begin your core rehab journey, that's what it's there for. Coach Jen and I were there for you ladies because we want you to have this incredible support system. We do monthly group coaching calls now. So every month, if you've got things you want to show, we do video, which is awesome, because that way we can see you. If there's something you're like, you want to show us something, a movie, you're like, I don't know if I'm doing this right, or have all these questions. That's what we're here for. So ask away. So check all that out. If you have other questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You're welcome to email or, shoot me a message on Instagram at Erica Zeal. Thank you all so much for joining me. The material contained within is provided for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. You should seek medical care for any specific health issues and consult your physician before beginning a new regimen or purchasing any products.